Welcome back to Fast Gadgets. I'm outside with my little buddy Meadows. Say hi, Meadow. And Pixie. Come here, Pix. Come here, baby. Oh yeah. You guys are my helpers, aren't ya? Alright, sorry for the terrible angles there. So what I'm going to talk about today, I've got what I consider my main desktop computer, which for most of you I know is probably an awesome modded computer. Well, this computer actually is far better than it looks. The case is very old. I just happen to have one laying around, so I didn't see any point in getting a brand new case. So what I've got here is just a basic ATX case, and as you can see, depending on what kind of processor you got in it and what you're going to be doing, the cooling isn't really that great. So what I did was I put some holes in the plastic covers here, and as you'll see when I take it apart, I've got a large fan back behind here to assist in the cooling in addition to the fan that's down here. And I'm going to take this apart because there's a couple things I want to do with this system. What I'd like to do is, first of all, I want to take it apart and clean it, and I'll give you the specs. And my plan for this system, which is running Windows 10 right now, is to go ahead and put a Linux dual install on it, and I'd like to use it for my video editing. Right now I'm using the early 2011 MacBook Pro i5, and I think this system would probably be better because it does have a better processor. Technically speaking, we'll talk about that in a minute. I am going to need to do a benchmark of this system as well. So I'm going to set the camera down for just a minute and go ahead and get the door open, because I do need to clean this out as well, and I want to make sure that the processor is not full of dirt and debris, and that it's in danger of overheating. Okay, so now I've got the case open, and I'm just going to go over the specs that I have here. So I honestly don't remember what type of power supply I have. It's brand new, and I got one. I really didn't make a good choice. You can see my cabling all over and my terrible cable management skills. I'm sure somebody's practically gagging right now even as we speak. But anyway, I got this particular power supply because I was having some problems at the time, and it actually took a different motherboard to fix that. But I had I think it was a 450 watt, and this one, I want to say, let's see if I can read it. This one is a 600 watt. Let's see if we got any stickers on the back. No stickers on the back. And when I put it in, I honestly cannot remember what it was. But processor wise, I've got a Phenom 2 AMD X6 1055T at 2.8 gigahertz. And I have been able to safely overclock this to easily 3.2 gigahertz. The problem with the overclocking, and I think even went higher than that, was the stock cooler really doesn't do all that great a job of keeping the system cool. So I had added in a couple of extra fans. They're nice and quiet. This one, and then I've got another one down in here. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. And I added inside in the front panel yet another one. So I've got my drives here. Let's see if we can get a focus here. I've got a 4 terabyte drive there, which does very well, SATA 3, and I've got my DVD writer, and then I've got another drive here that really it's time to take it out. It's a older SATA 500 gigabyte drive, but my thinking with this drive is I'm going to take this out and put it in my Pentium 4. Right now I have a 37 gigabyte ATA inside the Pentium 4 2.8 gigahertz that I have that I'm setting up as my Windows XP Windows 98 gaming machine, which you may have seen. So I'm going to move this 500 gigabyte to my P4 because I actually don't use that. Below I have a ADATA 240 gigabyte SSD installed, which is working very well on this system. And the other thing that I would like to do with this system is this motherboard that I have, which is the BioStar TA890GXE, and I've got version 5.2. This motherboard will actually allow me to overclock my RAM, if it is overclockable, to 1600 megahertz. So I'm almost positive those two red DIMMs I have there, they're 1 gigabyte each, can only go up to 1333 megahertz, but I think the other two here can go up to 1600, and I'm going to take those out and check those. My thoughts were, if I could overclock the RAM, and then I might experiment again with maybe stepping up the processor maybe to 3.0 and doing a heat dissipation test and see how hot the processor is getting. I do have the operational specs, which again, it's been a while since I've done this, so I really don't remember. But I want to experiment with Kdenlive video editing in Linux, and I also want to experiment with a editing tool called Filmora that is for Windows 10, and it seems to be the most like iMovie, and it's free to try, $50 for a single computer, so I thought I'd give it a try and see how well it works and check my render times. This one I'm going to hardwire into my switch, and I have pretty good download and upload speeds here. I've got 75 megabits download. I think that's 50 megabits upload. So I really want to have a system and be able to edit on it and then upload on that same system and have enough threads. This processor is a 6-core processor, so it should be able to handle everything. These two blue DIMMs here are, I believe, 8 gigabytes each, and these are 1 gigabyte each. I don't even think I'm going to try to overclock these, although I can check the specs and see if it's doable. But these ones I'm pretty sure I can. So I'd like to do that, overclock those, and see if I can't bring that CPU up to 3 gigahertz. So my plan for this computer is to get it all cleaned up. So I borrowed some canned air from my son. So I'm going to shoot this out, clean it all up, make sure that processor, let's get in real close. Yeah, it doesn't know what to do to zoom or to focus. I want to make sure that processor is actually very clean. Let's see if I can get this to focus. There we go. Now stay there. I see some dust and dirt in there, so I'm a little bit concerned about that. Definitely don't want to have a dust and dirt issue if I'm going to overclock this system even a little bit. You know, we could conceivably bring up the temp 5%, which would not be good. So I'm going to go ahead and dust this out, and then I'll be right back, and we'll pull the RAM and see if it's overclockable. Alright, so I've got the system all cleaned out. I figured while I was here, I'd go ahead and take out my drive that is no longer in use. The whole idea here, I want to try to increase airflow as much as possible. And I know with these cables all over, it's not very darn likely that it's going to be the best, but we don't need this extra drive in here. So I will remove this one, and then I can put it to use in another system. I just want to confirm what I thought. Okay, no, this one actually, it is not my 500, but you know what? That's okay too. This is actually a Barracuda 7200 with 120 gigabyte. So this would definitely be way better on a SATA port. And as luck would have it, that Pentium 4 D530 that I have, it does include SATA controller. I'm guessing it's not SATA 3, but that's all right. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pop out one of the 1 GB DIMMs, and let's have a look at it and see what we can do with it. So looks like it's DDR3 1333 PC3 1066, and I don't want to overclock something that really is probably not a candidate for doing it, so I probably don't need these 2 GB that awful much. So let's pop one of the blue ones out. These are HyperX. They're a lot newer. I did an upgrade on this system because I was using it for some forensic analysis of cell phones and other devices. So I got this RAM and the processor at the same time. So let's see what this says. Come on, you can do it. Why is it so hard for modern technology to focus? I'm helping it here. Okay. So, not very helpful at all. Kit of 2, 1.5. I do have some numbers there, so I guess I'm going to have to go look it up a little bit later. Kingston HyperX, huh? Alright, well, better than nothing. HyperX Fury, to be exact. So I'm going to put this one back in. I think I'm going to go ahead and take the 2 16s out right now. Or excuse me, the 2 1 GB units out and see what we got. Alright, let's get this thing to focus again. Now down here, this card here is actually a USB 3 card. It actually has supplemental power, but what's really interesting about this is when I plug in that supplemental power there, it behaves terrible. It's completely unreliable. It constantly connects and disconnects, but if I don't have the power plugged in, and that's why I got the new power supply, because I thought that maybe this was being caused by the power supply, but it wasn't. So I don't know if it's the motherboard or what, but anyway, I unplugged that supplemental power connector, and for things like my Wi-Fi, it works just fine. I have a small Wi-Fi unit, an AC that I use here, a Linksys, and this one works really well actually. Down on the floor, back behind my desk, this Wi-Fi unit, this Linksys, which I'm trying to plug back in, works extremely well. It actually does a great job. Okay, so I'm going to take out the video card. I don't even remember what I have in here. I bought this video card for 99 bucks a couple years back. I really didn't buy it because I wanted to game. The onboard video just wasn't really that great. So I went ahead and bought this one, and I can see I need to air this thing out. So it's called a Galaxy. I'm not even sure what it is. I think it's I know it's an NVIDIA. It might be NVIDIA GeForce GT640 1 GB DDR3 128-bit. So I don't know if you can see that. And I got it for 99 bucks, and what I really wanted it for was basically to be able to see full screen video better. And this one actually allows me to run it in 4K. What I connect this to is my 4K TV, and I use the HDMI here. So I've got an HDMI, a DVI, and a standard connector. I use the HDMI and I connect it to my 4K TV, and I'm able to actually run this in 4K resolution. Now, if I was doing video gaming, I don't think that would work very well, so I'd probably take it back to 1080. But if I'm going to actually edit on this, I've got a wireless keyboard and mouse, so I thought it'd be awesome to be able to edit on a full 4K screen, because I will have, I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and start doing 4K video. Right now I'm doing 1080 because what I'm using to do it is my Galaxy Note 4, and the Note 4 is really good. It's got some camera steadying features if you run it in 1080, and some other things. So I run it in 1080p 30 frame, which seems to work the best. So I'm going to blow this out, and I'm going to pause that so you don't have to hear it, and then we'll put it back in. Much better. It really is important to blow out the GPU and the CPU frequently. I try to do it around every 90 days, and I do an inspection every 30 days. I'm the kind of person who likes to make my hardware last as long as humanly possible, and I really hate to see stuff burn out because of, you know, lack of basic maintenance. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if anybody out here has had a problem. Oh, there goes Pixie. She's ready to go get a dog. Come here, Pix. Leave it. Leave it, Pix. I hate to see equipment die off before it's time. You know what I mean? We buy something, we want it to last as long as possible. And I know many of you have the most awesome gaming machine ever, I'm sure. But I gotta say, this one, what a faithful computer. I've had it for a long, long time, and it's been a wonderful machine for me. That additional RAM and the SSD, and this processor is actually newer as well. Before, I had a Phenom X2 that was, I think it was like a 2 gigahertz or something like that, or a 1.8. This processor was also an upgrade, so it came in really handy. One cool thing that I did with this system, I used a program to dedupe my music collection. Now, this music collection that I have is about 1.5 terabytes in size, so deduping it was pretty intense, and I actually ended up taking out 250 gigabytes. So at the time, I did overclock the system a little bit, and I ran the deduping program, and it actually used the processor, all 6 cores, and all the GPU cores, and I think I've got 2. And it still took it 2 days. So it ran solid for 2 days, topping out the processor and everything. And it never really did have an overheat issue. So I was really pleased with that. So I'm going to take the system, get it back into the house. And I think what we'll do next is fire it up. And I need to look up that RAM also and find out whether or not I can safely overclock it. If I can, I'll move it up to 1600 megahertz. And before we do that, though, I want to do some benchmarks and just find out how well it's running. So I'll use some tools. I'll use NovaBench and a couple other tools and just get an idea of where we're at. So I'll see you in a minute. All right, so we're back in the room where the computer is housed, and I now have it hooked up to a Sony Bravia 49-inch television, which is really nice because the display is just absolutely beautiful. Because it's running HDMI, I get to see my BIOS screen and pretty much full screen, and any other, I can actually zoom in, zoom up so on the TV itself so that I can see anything that's other than 4K or 1080p in full screen. So it's really awesome. I don't think I'm going to make any changes right now. Just thought I'd show you the current settings. I've got a Phenom 2X6 1055T running at 2.8 gigahertz. Let's see what else we've got. It does have a smart fan, but the only thing... Oh, that's right. I did a manual configuration on the smart fan. Now I remember this. And these settings that I put in were for the CPU because it wasn't running high enough. So I had to kind of help it run faster earlier on. I don't know why that doesn't say it's a plug and play, because it really should. So here in the T series is where you can do overclocking and memory overclocking. So I will come back in here and think about doing some overclocking if that RAM can handle it. I'll check the RAM and we'll see what we have. So I have no changes. So I want to discard and exit. My wireless keyboard and mouse do seem to be working. With this particular motherboard, I've noticed right now, of course, I'm using a standard keyboard, an old Packard Bell keyboard, but it doesn't seem to activate the USB early on. So the problem with that is that basically I cannot get into the BIOS without having a keyboard hooked into the PS2 port, and there are two PS2 ports. So I have to make sure that I actually have a keyboard wired in. So let's go ahead and get logged in. And I'm going to install a couple of different tools to do some benchmarking. So I'm going to pause. You don't have to sit here and watch me install benchmarking tools. All right, so our scores are in. Let's just have a quick look, see if we got better scores or worse. It looks like we did get slightly better on the multi-core. So we had 5237 here, and we now have 6608 and 1350 here and 1530 here. So there was quite a bit of difference without the screen capture. And that's got me thinking, I think I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen capture altogether. And I'm going to close it. And it minimizes. That would figure. Exit. It's trying to get me to upgrade to the Pro version. Alright, so that's closed. I was thinking it might be a good idea to run NovaBench again. And I just want to make sure that NovaBench got the best scores. Alright, so I found the place where I'm actually able to change the memory settings for the BIOS. According to the specifications for this RAM, this is HyperX 8 gigabytes, so it's a 2-by kit for a total of 16 gigabytes, and it says that this RAM is DDR3 1866 capable, so there shouldn't be any problem whatsoever setting this to overclock. So I'm going to make the change in the BIOS. And just a note, if you ever have this motherboard, it actually does not use the USB keyboard when you're in the BIOS. The older Pentium 4 did. Okay, so we have now set it for DDR3 1600. And I'm going to have a look at this real quick. So there's the part number, and I'm upping the speed to 1600. We'll see if it actually makes any improvement. And I'm gonna have to remember, unfortunately, in order to be able to do this, I had to do a manual overclock, which is a bummer because and you know what, I'm gonna do a quick change on this anyway. I'm gonna go to automate, and I guess not, because yeah, let's go back, because I can't really see what the memory is going to be running at if I use the automated mode. I'm not even sure if the memory would be sped up at all. So we're going to go back into DRAM timing. It is set for manual 1600. No, I don't want to discard. I want to save changes and exit. If this doesn't work, I will have to jumper the BIOS, which would be most unfortunate, I should say, and important all at the same time. So the big question here is, how much does a 266 megahertz increase on the RAM truly help out? So I'm going to start where it was beforehand. Okay, so I pulled up our screen capture of Geekbench prior to the RAM speed change, and Geekbench does indeed report a significant change. It's actually gone up about 250 points on the single core, and it looks like about 1,000 on the multi-core, so that change was worthwhile. And I think I'm going to go ahead and overclock it and do a little testing. I got to check the temperatures though, so we're going to have to do that. I wouldn't want to overheat it. I think it did fine with the auto overclocking at V4. You may wonder why use the auto overclocking. Well, it was really good at getting everything to run correctly. When I tried to do it myself, I ended up having to jumper the BIOS to reset it so I could get the system working again. So I do like these settings they have in here. But I'm thinking if... Well, let's have a look. Maybe I can just... Yeah, see, they do all this stuff. They have all these custom settings with like CPU voltage and all that. Allows the BIOS to select a CPU overclock. But if I do the automate, there's a couple of different settings I have. I have V6, V8, or V12, and I remember the V6 was fine. The V8, V12, I think that it caused the system to overheat a little bit too much. But if I did V6, let's see if it'll tell me. See, it doesn't tell me what it's doing. Okay, why are we doing that? Go back over here. But let's try it, and let's see if I get a better performance score on Geekbench. I'm not even going to use NovaBench. I'm going to go right for Geekbench. So here we go. One more benchmark run. All right, well, core temp never went up to over 52 degrees, so I'm pretty happy with that. I feel confident that I could run rendering, and if I'm not mistaken, this one can operate up to 70 degrees Celsius. It may even be higher. I just don't remember right now. I'll have to go check on the CPU. But let's have a look at our previous Geekbench. So the slight overclock actually had quite a significant difference. My single core score went up another, looks like about 200 points, and multi-score went up another, looks like 600 to 700 roughly. So it definitely was an improvement. The one thing I don't know is I have to assume that it's running the RAM at 1600, but I really don't know. That's the problem. But I did get a better score doing the overclocking. So as a quick follow-up, I found a tool called CPU-Z, and it shows my current DRAM frequency at 733. So if I multiply that by 2, I've got about 1500 megahertz. This RAM, of course, is able to go much, much higher, so I don't think I'm going to bother tweaking it since I get a better score anyway with the slight overclocking that I did versus just increasing the speed of the RAM. But for those of you who want to know, the CPU-Z tool is freeware, so you can download that and install it if you do a search. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode.